which hasn't really seen that sort of stuff. And and once again, Raa hit it on the head. We should be grateful every day that the sun comes up and we're here and we're living under the blanket of freedom provided by them.
Absolutely. Now, of course, I think it was around about 4 years ago, Raa, when we had the opening of C Company House. And you would remember, obviously, the same, pretty much the same sort of thing happening back then as what obviously is what's going to be happening today, eh?
Oh yeah, it was a fantastic launch, Keith, and even up to this day, it's well patronised. You get a lot of, especially a lot of young ones going to see their, some really great old photos and you see stuff that was used back in those war days, and you need that around the place just to remind all of us, just how grateful and how thankful we should be for those who gave their lives for one reason or another. Nobody likes to go away and fight a war, but sadly they were thrust into those times, and we need to sort of every now and then just be grateful that a lot of them did pay the ultimate price. And it's good having books and even sort of venues such as what we have here in Turanga to remember, not to dwell on it because it's not a nice thing what they went through, but just to remember that we shouldn't take every day of freedom for granted.
Yes, absolutely. What is interesting, and what I kind of, because I remember seeing the images and seeing them do the haka when back in 4 years ago. One of the things that stands out for me, and I think you'll agree with me, JT, is the age, because when there were these young boys that marched in this 100-man guard, all dressed up in the World War I regalia. And they were just young boys, maybe 16, 17, 18 years old. And that was a great representation, I thought, because that would have been how young these young men back in 1914 would have been. That's how old they would have been when they went away to war. And that kind of puts an impression, I think, on it certainly put an impression on me. And, that's just kind of unreal that there are young lads that were like 16, 17, 18, 19 all going away to war, eh, JT?
Yeah, and a lot of those young men, young fellas would have actually lied about their age, I think,
yes,
to gain entry into that war because they saw their older brothers and older cousins, getting ready to go away and probably talking about it. Geez, I want to be a part of that. I look up to my older brother. I want to go too, so I'm going to say that I'm 18 or 20 or whatever the minimum age was. And yeah, mate, I've got a 21-year-old son, and a lot of his mates always hang around at our place. And I look at them at times like this, and I think I'd be fearful or absolutely scared.
Yes,
petrified if I took my young fella away to war, knowing there's a good chance that they might not return. But different times, like we said earlier, and to them it might have been possibly an adventure and a chance to. I'm going to go down that road again. A chance to gain a level playing field with mainstream or with white New Zealand. A chance to gain equal footing in society. And unfortunately, as we can quite honestly say now, looking back, they did the damage over there. They did their service and their duty to the country, and they still came back as second-class citizens. In a lot of cases, and that just hurts me to no end. To think that our people went over there to fight in a war which wasn't really ours,
yes,
against an enemy. For an empire, so that that wasn't long ago that we were fighting against ourselves. And as up down and for the 28 Māori Battalion went away, was a chance to gain. It was the price for citizenship, and unfortunately, once again, history repeated after World War II, and still. A lot of our men came back and, mainstream soldiers got parcels of land, and our blokes lost a lot of their land because they unpaid rates while they're fighting for a war for these.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely agreed. You must agree with that too, Raa?
Oh, yeah, no doubt he's right. There was a lot of injustices done, and, a lot of them got back. A lot of those old fellas, a lot of our old people returned home, they sort of wondered why they went in the first place. It was like a big con. They went to fight against an enemy, they knew nothing about, a war they were thrust into. and they came back, and hello, they found a lot of their land and stuff had been taken away from them, not by the enemy, but by the people they were sort of going to represent. So there were a lot of injustices, and nowadays we sort of hope that a lot of them have been kind of sorted out, because it's not a good look for any country. But sadly life goes on.
Yes, indeed. Anyway, let's move back into sport. We'll talk about, the Storm Warriors game that's going to be on today. That's up there in Ericsson, I believe. JT?
Yeah, it is, Keith. And look, we've won, and when I say we, I mean the Storm have won the last 7 in a row.
Mm.
And head-to-head, I think it's 25-14 or something like that.
Right.
In favour of the... So, yeah, the Warriors definitely due for a win in this one. And, a good chance today. They've had the bye, as have the Storm, but the Storm had, 3 or 4 players involved in Origin.
Yeah.
Warriors at home, always going to be tough to beat, but Storm's my side, so I'll pick them even if they had one player.
Fair enough. What do you reckon, Raa?
Yeah, during the week on social media, I was quite scathing of the Warriors again.
No kidding.
That is the criticism they get. That doesn't seem to make them any better, or they don't seem to do any worse. And I think I saw JT's comment. He was kind of the opposite, like what he just said, that the Storm could well lose against the Warriors, and I'm hoping that they do. But I don't know. Even at home, I think I think the Storm, even with some of their players who were out during Origin duties, I think they're just going to have it over the Warriors. The Warriors are one of those fickle teams, as we know. They're hot, they're cold. And at home doesn't seem to inspire them as much as we'd like to believe. That, gives them a 10-point sort of starting sort of, gap. But I don't know. This is the Warriors we're talking about. And I think by the end of the game, we'll probably be scathing them again, whether they win or lose.
See, this is the thing. The Warriors... this is the Warriors. This is what you always say. This is the Warriors we're talking about.
I'm not the only one that says it half a while to all season as well.
Well, I guess you're right. But the fact is, and this is why I think the Warriors are going to win, because this is the Warriors we're talking about. They're playing the number one team in the competition at the moment. They should lose. Hence, while they'll win. That's why they're going to win today. They probably won't go too much further up the standings in the competition, but that's why they're going to win today, in my opinion, anyway. What do you reckon, JT?
Look, don't laugh too loudly at yourself, Keith, because as a Storm fan, when it comes to these Warriors games, I've seen it all before. Like you say, we're on top of the ladder. The Warriors are sitting sort of in the lower half, and mate, it's happened before. They've come out and blown us off the park. So for some reason, they seem to lift against us, and I don't know what it is, but yeah. And mate, everything you said is true. They're struggling. They're sort of bumbling through the competition this year, and the Storm are going all right. But mate, don't be surprised if what you say comes to fruition. I hope not. I hope the Storm put 50 on them, but mate, like I said, don't laugh at yourself.
Yes.
What you said is.
I reckon too. Sharks Eels today there, JT?
Yeah, I think the Sharks at home, they're hard to beat there on a Saturday afternoon out at Shark Park. Horrible place to play. The crowd's right on top here. It's a smaller ground, and the Sharks fans pretty passionate.
Right. And the Cowboys Sea Eagles later on tonight?
Yeah, I think the Cowboys in that one, they're just starting to build some momentum nice. Not quite as much as the Knights, but they're coming along after a bit of a slow start. And credit to Manly, they've played well this year through adversity, injury, and stuff like that. But I just think the Cowboys are too good at the moment.
And the Broncos, are they starting to make a bit of a comeback now? They've got the Titans tomorrow, eh?
Yeah, they have. They are starting to make a bit of a comeback, mate, and I think they'll be too good for their little brothers down the road, the Gold Coast Titans. The Broncos, both sides affected by Origin, but I just think the Broncos are a bit more class, and at home, they're going to be hard to beat. Yeah.
Now, also talking about rugby, now your Highlanders, well, they were only able to manage a draw. I think there was a home game too. Yeah, it was a home game there. they're pretty much. Well, I'm not calling it. I'm not saying that the Highlanders are pretty much done for the season, but it ain't. And that draw didn't help them much there, Raa.
Well, in most situations, and doesn't matter which code it is, and JT would probably test to draw better than a loss, I suppose. But in the Landers' case, I think their season's done and dusted. Back to the drawing board for next year. I think they had their chances, the opportunities. So they've only got themselves to blame. That's the one secret behind having two teams, Keithy. Now, all my weight and support goes behind the Chiefs who have a chance. And they've played some great rugby. So I'm not out of the running yet. In terms of Super Rugby. So. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, how come you have two teams?" Well, there you go. This is the example why. If one drops the bundle and can't cut the mustard, then you've always got the other team to fall back on.
Well, tell you what was even worse was the Blues. They were so close, 29-28. They lost to the Reds last night. So that's their season done, without a doubt.
Yes, it is indeed the clash of the colours, the Blues and the Reds. So no, for them definitely. I'm sure they're sort of thinking, well, let's all sort of put our weight behind next season because there's glimpses of potential on their team, as there should be from Auckland. They've got a big rugby union to choose from, and the calibre of players and even the coaching staff and the amount of financial support they have behind them, they should do a heck of a lot better than they have been the last few seasons. But as we know, I always refer to it as the Polynesian factor. Too many in the team, make for entertaining rugby, sometimes not winning rugby.
Their season's been, well, not too bad considering this is the Blues. Still languishing at the bottom. They'll be the worst team in the New Zealand Conference without a doubt. And their games this season. Their season hasn't been terrible. The Chiefs' season has been terrible, but they're still ahead of the Blues. So.
Oh yeah, no, and you're not wrong, Keith. Even though they're further up, the table. If you would ask any Chiefs fan, even the players and the staff themselves, they'll probably say exactly the same thing. It hasn't been a stellar year around, even though they've managed to secure a few victories on the trot. But it's consistency in every game that I think they look for, and that sort of bodes well for the next match. These higgledy-piggledy here and there, and against some of the top teams, like how they took apart the Crusaders in the last game. They're all well and fine for the ego and even for the colour of the team, but they don't do it justice in the long run. Where consistency and playing with some kind of routine that is going to go into your next game. That's more important. And I don't know. Chiefs may well make the semis. I'd like to see them make the finals if they can, but I don't know.
They're not going to. They're not going to. Trust me, they ain't going to make it, mate.
No.
They're done.
I don't know. The same thing with the Crusaders game. People were ripped them off. Even me, I thought the Crusaders were going to hammer them over in Fiji, neutral ground, but.
Yes.
As
True.
we saw, man, and they didn't just beat the Crusaders, they came back from quite an emphatic
from behind.
Down.
Unbelievable, really, 20 points they were ahead, and then the Chiefs stormed back to score, 40 points.
And that's the thing, a lot of people, even today, still kind of can't get their
I think they were just having
around
a rest.
The Crusaders.
They're giving the Chiefs a bit of a...
It'd be no surprise, but... Man, this is the Crusaders we're talking about. You hardly ever get them on a bad day on the hop, but I reckon their neutral ground played a lot to do with it.
No, I think they were just, they wanted to throw the game anyway. They wanted to give their boys a rest. That's what it seemed like to me.
Yeah, they could have, but at the end of the day, the Crusaders, man, they're like, Mr. Consistent. Even they, amongst themselves, would not have been happy with that, whether or not they wanted to drop the match or not.
Are the Rebels going to be scared because they've got them tonight, the Crusaders? The Rebels,
Well, that is the rule of thumb, that, the Rebels might well be on a backlash, but I think, maybe even they're expecting it, but no doubt they would have done a lot of homework on that game against the Crusaders Chiefs to see exactly how